As a therapist, these are the 10 traits that I tell my clients to look out for if they suspect that there might be a narcissist in their life. Number 1 is what's called this grandiose sense of self. They are somebody that sees themselves as bigger, more important, or more profound than they actually are. So they can exaggerate achievements, or they can have expectations about how they think they might be treated that doesn't really match a realistic interaction or situation. Number 2, they tend to have an obsession with power, success, fame, beauty, love, control. So they might have grandiose dreams of this. Maybe they haven't done anything to pursue higher education or to build a business plan, but they just know that they're going to be a Forbes top 10. They expect to be a millionaire, but they can't hold down a job. They are very maybe looks focused to the point that they maybe make bad decisions on that, or don't take care of their actual health. They're more focused on their looks. Number 3, they tend to believe that they are special. Now, this is a little bit like the grandiose sense of self, but with this, we see them sometimes be elitist or only associate with people that they think are on their level. So an example of this would be somebody who bumps into a really famous celebrity, and a narcissist would walk up to them and expect them to just engage with them back and forth like they're best friends because they see themselves on the same level, even though they've never met this person, and that person, the narcissist, isn't a known person. With feeling special, they also tend to think that the rules don't apply to them. So maybe they get pulled over for speeding and they just don't think they should get a ticket because the rules don't apply to them. The next one is they tend to require excessive admiration. Now, this can come in the way of they want lots of compliments, they want lots of words of affirmation, but it can also appear as they desire strict obedience or compliance. So if you don't give them what they want, do what they want, agree with what they say, or share the same perspective, they might think you're being rude or disrespectful, or being a bully to them, and then they victimize themselves. So they tend to expect that everybody just cater to their every whim. The next trait is a sense of entitlement. We see this, like how I mentioned, the not feeling like they deserve a speeding ticket if they sped, but this can also be things like they think they should be able to cut to the front of the line or have the best table at the restaurant even though they don't have a reservation, or they can feel entitled to people's time, attention, money, bodies. The list can go on. Then we have one of the most common ones that I think that people talk about when they're talking about narcissistic abuse, and that is that narcissists tend to take advantage of other people. This comes from seeing people sometimes as objects or having transactional relationships. They can have this mindset of, what can I get out of this person or out of this relationship? And so they can be very abusive in this way, and they can use people, and that can be very draining for a victim on every level. They also lack empathy. This is another one that's mentioned that's really common, and this is where narcissists can really become dangerous. So a person that lacks empathy, which is a skill that we develop, it's not something that we're just born with, so it's a skill that they never really developed, makes them dangerous because they're unable to consider how their actions might be hurtful or harmful, or even if they do, they don't care. They're unable to put themselves in another person's shoes or see things from their perspective, and they don't tend to learn from their abusive behavior because they don't see an issue with it, because hurting another person is not a problem for them. So that's one of the more dangerous symptoms or signs that we see with narcissists to be aware of. And then we have that, and this isn't always, and sometimes it's subtle, so it can be hard to spot, but narcissists can be very envious, jealous, possessive, and a lot of that stems from being very insecure. So they might come across like a really proud peacock, but they might internally be extremely insecure, and that can cause them to be very domineering, controlling, possessive, or jealous, and not in the cute way. And that can also become dangerous if that gets out of hand. We sometimes see narcissists become obsessive or stalk people. So definitely want to be aware of. The ninth one is that they tend to be charming. This is probably the most frustrating sign of a narcissist because it makes people think they're not. Some of the most sinister, abusive, narcissistic people out there are loved and adored by so many people. This is why we sometimes call them wolves in sheep's clothing. They can present as smart and funny and charismatic and charming and even caring, but it's very surface level. It's very shallow. It's very public facing to all the people on the outside. But inside the home or behind closed doors, it's a very different story. And then lastly, narcissists lack self-awareness, which is why we hear people say narcissists don't change or heal. You must have self-awareness in order to change or heal something, but they tend to not have that. It's rare to have a self-aware narcissistic person, and if they are self-aware, they're probably healing from their narcissistic traits. This lack of self-awareness is often coupled with the fact that they don't take responsibility for anything because they don't see anything as their fault because they're not self-reflective.